ho, ho!
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to take 20 minutes to show you how to make a centerpiece for your Christmas table. Now I know Christmas is going to feel a bit different this year. I know in our family we used to have lots of parties and people coming over, and it really is going to be just our family this year, but it doesn't mean that it has to be any less special. So I'm going to show you a way of really making your table feel special. We had parties, there was people in the living room, people in the hall, people in the kitchen, but this year it feels like it's going to be a lot more intimate. Really, Christmas is going to happen around our dining table with our closest family, our mums and dads, grandparents, and so we're just going to enjoy it, but it doesn't mean that it can't be special, it can't be beautiful. And it also doesn't have to cost a fortune, which is really good news this year. So I'm going to show you how to make a table centerpiece with just bits and pieces that I've either foraged and got naturally, or I've spent so little money. In the end, I'll tell you how much this whole thing cost me in total, and it's not very much. So to get going, if you're going to do it along with me or you want to do it at home, I'll just take you through what I've got. I've got some Oasis, and you don't even really need that, but it's definitely going to help me maintain the structure of this. I want to make it today, and then I want it to last for the next 3-4 weeks on my Christmas table, and it's possible by using Oasis stuff. If it begins to wilt, it won't drop, it won't fall off as much. Then I've got some lovely bits and pieces. Berries, I did buy these berries now in stocks in Tesco's, but they were really inexpensive. The holly I've gathered just myself in a forest, some twigs just to add a bit of texture. This is actually artificial eucalyptus, but you could definitely pick up some natural eucalyptus at a florist's. But again, I want to be able to use this the whole way through Christmas, so I'm just going to use this artificial stuff today. This is some wild heather that I've gathered just up in the bog. Some pine cones that again we've collected over autumn, winter, and I've had from different decorative things lying around. And then I've got some bits and pieces to spice things up as well, so I don't just want only flowers in my Christmas centerpiece, I want it to be really special. So I've got some little jingle bells. You can pick these up in like the likes of the range, or even you can get them as like Christmas decorations, hanging ones in Tesco's, and just snip the little cord off and voila, you've got jingle bells. Over here then I've got some nice little cinnamon sticks. I picked these up in the range. Again, you can get them actually, if you didn't want to buy the decorative ones, you can get real ones in Tesco's, but they're really widely available. This orange I have sliced to about half a centimetre. I've popped it in the oven for about an hour on 120, and I've just turned it once, and I quite like it whenever it's got a little bit of the burnt kind of texture, but there's pieces there as well that aren't. They're maybe a little bit thicker and they're not quite as burnt, but I think the burnt bits kind of add a little bit of texture and colour to it. So lots of that, and again, obviously a couple of oranges. I think that was 3 big oranges, so really inexpensive. I'm going to use dinner candles in my centerpiece. These again, I think I got these in So String Green for 30 odd p a candle, or these ones were from Tesco's for a pack for £2.75, I think, for 6. So, oh, and some ribbon. We need ribbon, very important. Christmas always needs ribbon. So again, ribbon's relatively inexpensive. I picked mine up just this morning in the range, and they had a really wide variety and lots of different colours and textures and stuff. The bulk of this display, however, is going to be fur, Christmas fur. Now I have braved the elements, not today I'll say, because today is probably the stormiest day of the year so far, but earlier this week when it was cold but dry, I braved the elements and went up to the hills and went foraging in some forests and got a few bits of fur. And you know, I wouldn't want to go and take too much of it, but a couple of snips, no one's going to miss it. So that's available. Maybe you have a fir tree in your garden that you could use, that would be even better. I also picked up in the forest some ivy, so that will just be nice to be able to bulk it up whenever we've got going. And some, again, twigs down there too that we can use to just add a bit of texture. The only other thing that you need to make your centerpiece is something to hold your candles. So you'll notice my random tin of chopped tomatoes. I want want my display to be quite tall, I don't tend to keep it in the middle of the table when we're eating. I tend to move it down to one end, and so it's nice to have a bit of height, something that's kind of just a bit more present and obvious. So I'm going to use these bottles from IKEA. You can use anything, milk bottles, anything that you've got lying around, glass bottles, just wash them out, and then you can pop your dinner candle on the top, and it's just going to give me a good bit of height. You could use anything. You could use candle holders that you have lying at home. But if you don't have any candle holders, a thing that you can do is an old tin can. This one's full, but you use it first. Take the label off, wash it out, pop it in, and then if you want to just have a lower display with, say, like a church candle, that is a really cheap way of being able to give your candle a little bit of elevation so that you'll be able to see it above your foliage, but it's not going to be too high, not going to be as high as mine. And maybe if you're going to use it, it's going to be at the centre of your table all Christmas long, and you're going to be talking to people over it, you maybe don't want your centrepiece to be too tall. The only other thing that I have to help me along today is my trusty glass of mulled wine. So yes, let's get going. Alright, I've gowned myself up just because I want to protect my jumper, but there isn't anything too dirty here. But yeah, if you've got a Christmas apron, pop it on. Why not? I'm going to start by placing my candle holders in my box. Just to say, I happen to have this lying around and I use it quite a bit for different displays, but you could use anything. I have upstairs these little flat wooden boxes that I'd got in Poundland a couple of Christmases ago. I think they say General Stores on them, and they're quite kind of vintagey and cool looking. You could use wicker baskets, you could use anything that you have in the house. And if you even have a plastic basket, what you could do is have your foliage draping down over it that would cover it and you wouldn't even know what it is underneath. I'm going to keep mine quite in the box because I just love that wood, the rustic feel of it. So position your box and your candle holders, and then we're going to cut the Oasis to size. So the Oasis is going to really just go around the edge of my bottles to just keep it nice and full. I've just got a knife and I'm just cutting it down. It's really noisy but easy cut. Pop it in, that's pretty perfect, and then do your sides as well. Perfect. To fill the base of mine in, I've used about 1.5 blocks, and again, really inexpensive. I got mine in a range this morning, so no problem, it's widely available, especially at Christmas time. That's my candles well kind of secured in, or candle holders, sorry, well secured in. And now I'm really going to build my Christmas display around the candle holders. So much like when you are building a Christmas wreath, you want to start with the bulk. You want to make sure that you get the fullest, greenest kind of parts in first, that that's the base of your display. Like I said, my bulk is going to be my Christmas fir, but a word of warning to the wise. They can be very tricky to handle. Anybody who's ever had experience of a real Christmas tree at home will know that once those little pine needles fall off, it can be very sore underfoot. So I would recommend that you put on some gardening gloves to just protect your fingers before you start manipulating that stuff. And if you're grabbing them, try and grab them that the pine needles are pushing up and you're that's how you're grabbing it, and that you're not just grabbing it straight, because if those little things pop into your fingers, they'll pierce the skin and draw blood. So I happened to have some of this lying around just from an evergreen tree that we that was here local that I used for a wreath. So I actually might use a little bit of this as well to just form some bit of a base, and then there'll be a little bit of overhang at the side. I do love a bit of Christmas foliage, and the smell of it is so nice. So I'll keep going with this and you can watch along and get building your own. Once you've popped the main bit of your fir and the evergreen leaves and all that in, you should be left with something that looks a little bit gappy, and that's okay. It's again like building a wreath. You're not looking for it to be, you know, jam-packed, because you're going to be able to fill out all those little holes with different bits of interesting berries and other bits of foliage and greenery and oranges and all that kind of stuff. But really what you're looking for is for it to be like a good structure, a good starting kind of base for us to decorate and bulk out. So I'm pretty happy with that. Again, if you wanted to take it down, you could just trim bits and pieces, no problem. Sometimes what I like to do is to just put it all together and then stand back and see what I think. Mine is going to be taller because I'm going to have the dinner candles, and because of that, it doesn't really matter if mine is quite high. Maybe you'll want yours to be lower down to the ground, so just angle your little fir branches in more sideways than up, but I like mine to have a little bit of height. I'm pretty happy with that. So moving on then, to just fill in some of these gaps, I'm going to use some ivy, some of my artificial eucalyptus, and some of my wild heather that I got up in the bog. Let's go. Is to keep moving it around, because I think you can get kind of fixated on one side, and especially if it's going to be at the center of your table, people are going to see it from all directions. So I keep shifting mine around just to get an idea of what it looks like from every side. And now that I've turned it around, for whatever reason, I'm noticing that this one is really high, so I'm just going to snip it off. That's a bit more in keeping with the rest of the height of it. I mean, there's no rules, but as a general rule, I think it's quite nice for any kind of arrangement that I make to kind of go almost like a pyramid. And so it just kind of makes it quite pleasing to the eye to have a little bit of symmetry. So I've popped in there, I've gone ahead and popped some sticks in just to put a bit of texture in. If you know me at all, you'll know that I just love woodlandy, really natural boho-y kind of things. This year my kitchen is decorated with a kind of woodland theme, so in keeping with that, I wanted to keep this as natural looking as possible. So lots of twigs, we've got our fir, stuck the ivy through for a bit of interest, and then I've just darted in a few pieces of the artificial eucalyptus, and it's like a lighter colour, so it kind of gives a bit more interest. I'm going to start, oh, I forgot my heather, we can't forget that. I love this stuff, I think it's so beautiful. I wish now when I'd gone up that I'd got more. So I'll pop it in somewhere where it's quite prominent, because you want to see that. Lovely. Kind of adds a nice warm colour to it too, which is lovely. Okay, I'm going to start adding in some pine cones. They're quite bulky and they can be hard to place, and make sure to protect your hands again whenever you're sticking your hands in there with those pine needles. But because they're the next bulkiest thing, biggest thing, I'm going to do them next before I add any of the little bits and pieces. So let's see what we can do with some pine cones. So what I'm doing now is any wee gaps around the edge of it that when you're sitting you would see, I'm just plugging them up with some little mini pine cones. I have loads of them, so why not? And it just means that no part of it is going to look gappy or uninteresting. If you're sitting at my kitchen table this Christmas and you're looking at this, you're going to see lots, you're going to have lots to admire, hopefully. And yeah, I hope that people will appreciate the effort that I put into it. I'm pretty happy that all those little gaps are plugged. So this really is the very base of our Christmas centerpiece. Next is the kind of interesting bit, because you get to add lots of colour and interest. I've got these berries. Oh, I just love red and green. It's so traditional, and well, I am a massive traditionalist. So I'm going to pop a few bits of these in, a few sprigs. I don't want to go too crazy with the red. It's supposed to just be a little pop of interest. But I think it'll add a nice bit of depth and really make it stand out. If you want, you could add some holly in. I'm actually looking at mine and thinking it looks full enough. I'm not really sure I want to add any holly in, but if you've got gaps, again, holly is a really easy thing to come by and a perfectly Christmassy looking thing to just plug any gaps and make it look good and full. Alright, I want to make, rather than just placing bits and pieces here and there, I'm going to make a couple of clusters together that you can pop on and it'll bring like a real pop of interest. So I like a couple of pieces of orange put together and maybe like a little pine cone tied on the top. To do that, all I'm going to do is either get a pen or a pair of scissors, whatever, pierce 2 little holes in my orange, pop a bit of twine through the holes. That's my orange on, and then if you just pull this through, leave enough of a gap to stick the cinnamon stick in, and then pull tight. There you go, a little cluster. And so once you've got that, you still got the twine on the back, you can just attach that really anywhere in your centerpiece, and it just adds a lovely little pop of colour and interest. So I'm going to get going with a couple of these. So chuffed with this now. I think it looks full and beautiful and interesting and colourful and super Christmassy. If you want, you could attach things like this, these little jingle bells, to just different bits of the little sprigs of fur as well, or the sticks even. But you know, I really like mine like this. I'm going to add my candles and my ribbon and then I think I'm finished. Now I had to decide what colour of candle to go for. I had 2 colours. I had this lovely berry colour ones. They are so beautiful, but they're very tall, and I was afraid that maybe they were too tall. And then I got these gold ones just in Tesco's. These are quite as tall. I mean, the fun thing is you could totally change it. You could burn this on one night and change it around. Depending on what candle you put on as well, you could change your ribbon colours. So if I was going to go for the lovely berry coloured candle, I'd probably stick a nice gold ribbon on, and it's going to bring out the colour of the oranges, really complements it. Nice contrast to the berry colour. And if I was going to go with the gold, I think I would probably stick on a nice berry coloured ribbon. It's just a pop of colour, different to the candle, really rich looking, those jewel colours of Christmas that Christmas so suits. I guess I'm going to have to decide, but absolutely you can go for both. Go for either or go for your church candle and make a lower display. That's the really fun thing about something like this, is it's totally personalizable. You can do whatever you want. It can be a reflection of you and the Christmas that you celebrate and how your own home is decorated. So if you're someone who loves a bit of sparkle and a bit of glitter, you could put a few glittery baubles in there, really, and make it interesting and stand out. I just love this natural look though. This definitely suits my home, suits my family, and suits our vibe. I'm pretty happy with this. I'll decide on my candles, and then I guess there's nothing for it. Since I've got this beautiful centerpiece, we're going to have a lovely family meal tonight. And so there you have it, a lovely table centerpiece for about the total of £5. Gorgeous candles, ribbon, pine cones that we've collected, foliage that we've foraged, sticks and branches from the forest, some orange and pine cones, cinnamon sticks, ivy, berries. Gorgeous.
Party!
Party? Are we having a party? Yes. Wow. Can you say Happy Christmas to everybody?
Christmas!
Happy Christmas from us to you.
Ho, 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 ho!